It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA/FIM North American Road Race Championship. This weekend, MotoAmerica Superbikes at Ridge Motorsports Park in Shelton, Washington for round 4 of 9 for 2025 from Motivation Supersport from Ridge Motorsports Park as racers are ready to get race number 1 underway under a beautiful, sunny, broken cloud day, but perfect temperature to race motorcycles. Welcome everyone to the broadcast. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. So Jason, we're not quite at the halfway point of the season. We're getting really close to that point. However, at this point of the season, it seems like once again, as was the case in 2024, we're at a 2-horse race.
Yeah, Matthew Skoltz and obviously PJ Jacobsen, who's leading our championship right now, Greg. They were the class of the field in 24. And if you remember, this was the race last year that kicked off a few hard feelings when we saw those two guys come together at this track. This is at Road America a few weeks back. And again, it was those same two guys joined by Cam Peterson in that first race when we saw Ty Scott and Cam Peterson come together in turn 5. Then Matthew took a shot at PJ, made a small mistake down there in the chicane. Matthew would eventually go back past Ty Scott at the line, but it was going to be PJ Jacobsen who would take that win and really help solidify himself in the points.
And for PJ Jacobsen, his second win of the season. And boy, that really shows pivotal. Now here's what happened in race number 2.
Yeah, race number 2 was the same thing. We had this big battle up at the front of the pack. And this time, Blake Davis on the other track racing R9, he would play into this game. If you remember day 1, Greg, he had an incident with Ty Scott coming out of turn 5, which would ultimately end his race early. But on day 2, he wasn't going to be denied as the 22 got a great drive out of the last corner. And it would be Cam Peterson again holding off PJ Jacobsen. So for Matthew Skoltz, kind of a little bit of a bad weekend for him. Anytime he's not on the podium, it surprises us all. So he's going to be looking back here at the Ridge to try to rebound.
Yeah, and this is exactly what you're talking about. It was 8 points heading into the last round, and when they left, PJ Jacobsen on that 126 points to Skoltz's 106, so 20-point advantage, and you can see the difference in those podiums. Ty Scott hanging back there, 2 also still in contention with Blake Davis trying to make some moves. Well, it's a beautiful day outside on the racetrack here. And let's get down to the third member of our broadcast team, Jamie Howe, who's with the number 1 plate.
Yes, and our defending champion, Matthew Skoltz, earlier in the final session of qualifying, unfortunately made what he admits to be a mistake, went over and adding insult to injury, couldn't get that bike refired, losing all of that track time this morning. I know Shock Racing didn't take any chances, rebuilt this bike for you, but when you have all those questions in terms of setup, how do you go into the race?
They rebuilt the bike for me. Thank you to them. They've been working hard. Yeah, I screwed up in qualifying too, but I'm ready to, try to make up for it now. Looking at Friday's practice times, look like I've got something. I'm just going to take my time, get into my groove, and we'll take it from there.
Right, and it's trying to chase PJ Jacobsen in terms of the championship point standings. PJ right now with a 20-point advantage. He's going to start alongside Matthew Skoltz in that second position on the front row. But his teammate, Kayla Yakov, the number 19, she's had a great qualifying session. Her best of the season, able to start 4th today. This is a track where you already have a lot of really good history. Kayla, you got your first Junior Cup win here a few years ago. The confidence that you have going in today, what role will that play in the way you're able to race?
Yeah, it helps a lot to be confident going into a race, but I was hoping for the front row, got bumped out just at the end, but it's all good. I feel like our pace is pretty strong this weekend, so yeah, we're just going to go out, try to latch on, and see what we can do.
It's going to be a great battle either way. Greg?
Yeah, with Kayla Yakov and the experience here, and that was a big moment a few years ago. The race we're looking at is the old Junior Cup category. And Jason, Kayla has got some magical thing going on with Ridge Motorsports Park.
Yeah, but even more important, Greg, if you remember, she was chasing the guys down at Road America. She had an incredible weekend there. Told me that the bike was the best it had ever been right out of the truck. And when you have a young racer like Kayla is, that's going to build her confidence. She was probably chomping at the bit to get back here to the Ridge where she's had that success. But she's seen that race-winning pace up in front of her. And she's going to be right there, I think, with that podium pace here today.
Well, this is Ridge Motorsports Park here in Shelton, Washington. It's one of Kayla's favorites and one of mine as well. Jason Pridmore, tell us more about it.
Well, it sure is a fun place, Greg, and it offers a little bit of everything except for big straightaways. You see that chicane they go down to in turn 1. Very flowy from turn 1 all the way around through turn 6. A lot. You go up on that ridge at that point. turn 8, turn 9 wide open on these Supersport bikes in through turn 10. Heavy braking zones into 11 and 13. Come back down that famous waterfall here at the ridge, and it's a long run to the finish line. You can actually get by somebody before that finish line comes to you.
Very tricky track. It throws everything at you and can really generate some great race action. Well, this guy right here, PJ Jacobsen, your points leader. He's looking to extend that points lead. What do the rest of this field have for him? We're going to find out. Race start in 4 minutes.
Motivation Supersport is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. By NXT Bets. Play MotoAmerica for cash, multiple race classes live on top sportsbook and DFS platforms all season long. And by Motivation, the most trusted online resource for premium motorcycle parts and accessories delivered right to your door.
Well, I've made it down onto the grid for this one, the Supersport race, about to get underway. It's pretty crowded down here. Just want to give a shout out to the CW Moto team. They are the local team from just Seattle, not just about an hour away from here. And their rider, he's had an up and down weekend, Luca Allen, the British rider. I know there's a lot of people watching and cheering him on, cheering the team on as well. Miranda Cain down here, fresh from her podium. She's holding the umbrella. Jason Uribe, part of this team as well this weekend. Great work by the team. They've got the bike rebuilt, and he is ready to rock and roll. Joel Oman as well also has had a bit of an up and down weekend, but he is ready to go. Owen Williams, who we spoke to as well, also on the grid. Max Van, massive save, of course. This was Max Van yesterday, monster save that he made as we continue our little wander further forward. Aidan Sneed on the MV Augusta. Multiple manufacturers in the Next Generation Championship, and just want to give a shout out to the MP13 MV Augusta, the F 800, ridden of course in the World Championships as well. Here is our Japanese rider making his debut this weekend here, the number 30, as we make our way further forward. Josh Hayes, the most winningest rider, if that's a word, but he is the most winningest rider in MotoAmerica. He's going to be looking to get further up the grid as we make our way forward. There is Cameron Peterson. He will be looking to salvage a good result. Great qualifying for Teague Hobbs. Let's keep a shout out for him as he moves further and further towards the front of the grid. Blake Davis also will be one to watch. Xavi Flores, former champion down here in a different role this year, but he is definitely part of the Blake Davis camp. And on the front row of the grid, you got Tyler Scott, you got PJ Jacobsen, and you have Matthew Scott. It's time for me to clear the grid. We're going to hand back over to our Supersport broadcast team, Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
Back here at Ridge Motorsports Park, Shelton, Washington, for Motivation Supersport race number 1. And it looks like they are clearing the grid, and we're going to get that warm-up lap happening. Jason Pridmore, we talk about warm-up lap. What are the things you're looking for on a warm-up lap?
I mean, the big thing is it just gives you that last chance to go get some heat in the tires. The bikes are going to come off the warmers there. As you get a look at Blake Davis and Xavi Flores, his crew chief on the grid. So yeah, Greg, once these bikes come off warmers, the thing is you want to keep the heat in them. So the warm-up lap is going to be just for that. Get a good solid warm-up lap. We've had, yesterday was kind of a little chillier here, a lot of overcast as we get up here in the Pacific Northwest. Today we've had little moments where the sun has come out and put some heat into the track. So I think tire choice is going to be an interesting thing for a lot of these riders as well. But, you know, right now Matthew knows he's got to be the guy to go out and win these races. He's got 20 points to make up. So we'll see how that how it plays out.
You see there's a couple of blank spots on the grid. One of them, Jay, is a story of Alessandro Di Mario, the Twins Cup national champ, had an opportunity with Cameron Peterson, the 45. Wasn't able to really ride yesterday, so his team put him on the motorcycle. He did qualify for his first time ever on a Supersport machine on the 4th row in 11th place, but they decided that he was not going to take the grid as Cameron Peterson, a good look at the 45, was able to get a time in there, and he put himself on the grid in 8th place. So we're ready to get this warm-up lap underway. Let's go down to Jamie Howe with more.
You mentioned the changes in track temperature from yesterday to today, and really in the second session of qualifying, it matched what they had in the first session yesterday. It's a 25-degree swing in terms of track temperature, but as we were getting an update just before the bikes got out there onto the grid, as soon as the clouds move in, the temperature does drop about 5 to 6 degrees. We're still in the same operating window in terms of tire choices, but this is a little bit of a gamble for some of these teams just because it is such a big swing and they don't have all of the data that they might need.
Yeah, and I think, Jamie, what you're talking about is when you have changing weather conditions all the time, even if it could even be windy or any of those things, you know, you got to go out and put long runs in on the tires, Greg. And some of the teams probably did that on yesterday's tires when it was cooler. Now when the track temperature comes up, you're going to get a different reaction. So then it kind of gives you, like, do we take a shot or do we not take a shot and just go with what we know?
And by the way, play MotoAmerica for cash. Superbike and Supersport series are now live on top sportbooks and DFS platforms. Scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/PlayMA to see what's available in your location. Sign up, claim exclusive bonuses, and make your picks now. So we had qualifying yesterday afternoon, Friday. Then we had another one this morning, and that set the grid. And Matthew Skoltz, based off of Friday's performance on pole at a 142.221.
And of course, then we got Jacobsen and Tyler Scott rounding out the front row. Kayla, we saw there. Blake Davis, Jake Lewis. I think Jake could do well here. T. Cobbs, Cam Peterson, Corey Alexander's had a better weekend, which is nice. Hayes, DeMario, as you said, is a scratch. And we got Ojagawa from Japan is coming. Greg Torrin Collins, Aiden Sneed, Dave Anthony are going to fill out row 5 with Max Van, Enriquez, and Owen Williams. Man, Max Van had a save yesterday, didn't he? It was all over social media. Jarrett Nassani, Omen, Mags, and Luca Allen are going to run out or fill out our grid here. So the riders will come back around after their warm-up lap. And tricky first turn here, Greg. Obviously, it's a short run to that chicane. Chicane here was built about 5 years ago. The Ridge Motorsports did a great job rather than going all the way down that front straightaway where turn 1 would be ultra fast. We built a chicane here to kind of slow the riders down. But what it does is it does turn it into a bit of a traffic jam sometimes when you get down into that first corner. So it's a short run. This will be the first time the riders have really got to do that other than that warm-up you just saw them do. So really, you just got to get through that first chicane as we're ready to go here.
All right, so our 7th race of 18 for the season, getting ready to get underway. 15 laps scheduled for race number 1. Here we go, revs are up. And we're away racing, and it looked like PJ Jacobsen was asleep at the wheel in the middle of turn number 1.
And it's not where you want to get swallowed up, as you can see Jake Lewis with a great start. Jake Lewis on the 85 Altus bike, he gets himself slotted, it looked like, into 3rd. We'll see where he comes out of that, Greg. It looked like PJ was able to get back by Jake Lewis. Kayla there running 5th, but it's Matthew Skoltz in front of Ty Scott at the moment.
That was a really tricky one for Jake Lewis on the Altus Motorsports Yamaha. He had to really get the bike turned so tight in order to make that corner, and that's what caused him to not get on the gas as quickly as his compatriots. As Kayla Yakov now going up the inside of Jake Lewis, and Jake Lewis gets right back after it.
Yeah, Kayla took a shot, and you know that's the thing. A lot of confidence right now in that young lady, and Greg, she wants to go with these front 3. As you see, Blake Davis now is going to take a shot on trying to ride around the outside of Kayla, and I don't think he's going to make that one stick. Kayla's going to fall back into position here and go back after Jake Lewis just up the road in front of her. You can see T. Hobbs and Josh Hayes on the BPR Performance R9s just back there, the fluorescent colored bikes. Josh made a pretty good step this morning, Greg, after overnight. He was at I think about a minute 45.5 yesterday. He got down to 44 flat this morning. So for the for the 4-time Superbike champ back in our Supersport class, he made some big steps.
All right, so Matthew Skoltz on the number 1 plate leads on his Strack Racing Yamaha R9. Right behind him, that was a big at the top of the hill. Able to hold on to it, though. In 2nd place is the number 70, Ty Scott, on that Mission Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki GSXR 750. And then PJ Jacobsen, number 15, on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel. So 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 spots, with Ty Scott going fast, 146.801 so far. And there's Kayla Yakov, the number 19, out of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel. That's the Panigale V2. And then Jake Lewis the number 85. If you're just watching us for the first time this season out of Princeton, Kentucky, Jake Lewis on the Altus Motorsports Yamaha YZF R9.
Yeah, Kayla's got some pace, and you can see she's getting away from Jake ever so slightly here. But man, to bridge the gap down to those front three who have really been the performers over the last couple of years in our championship. Ty Scott's good to see him, closer to these guys. He struggled a little bit, it looked like yesterday in first qualifying. A lot better today, obviously, for the 70, so that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team has given Tyler something that he feels he can battle with. You can see these front three just getting away ever so slightly. That said, Kayla had the fastest first split of anybody. So, but just trying to bridge that gap down can prove itself difficult.
Into the tighter section here at Ridge Motorsports Park. Ty Scott trying to close a little bit of the gap on Matthew Skultz. So for the number 15, your points leader, PJ Jacobsen, he's sitting in third, but right behind him, Jamie, is Yakov in fourth place.
And just the confidence that she has right now, the way she's able to be more aggressive here in the start than what we've seen from her previously. She really came down to unloading that bike, exactly the kind of setup that she was looking for here at this racetrack. And slowly through the qualifying session, she was able to not only do the lap time, but do them completely on her own. So that furthered her confidence. She didn't have any help from her teammates. And she said, if I can stay with the front pack at the start of this race, she feels really good about the consistency that she has over the course of 12 to 13 laps. And those last couple that she hasn't tried out yet, Greg.
And Jamie, to your point there, she said the same thing to me at MotoAmerica, and this is what happens when you have a team that gels as well as these guys do. There's this whole Ray Hall crew are very tight. See them at dinner all the time, all grouped together. Greg, it adds to a rider's confidence. She's a year and a half into the Supersport project that she's on now with a good group of guys, good group of people down there that are making her comfortable. And now they know what she wants. When they unload the bike, she can just get to work on Friday morning and get right up to speed.
Confidence building all over the place. So on her second complete lap, PJ Jacobsen, fastest lap of the race, 1:43.159. That is 0.057 seconds slower than the outright fastest time in a Supersport machine ever around Ridge Motorsports Park.
Blake Davis just made a big pass on Jake Lewis down through that turn 9 sector, out of turn 8. Blake got a nice run on Jake and was able to get his Strack R9 up underneath the Altus Motorsports R9. Blake gets shot up out of the seat. Now he's going to want to start to chase down Kayla, who's kind of holding at bay here. 43.1, fastest lap of the race so far from PJ Jacobsen. We'll see how many riders, Greg. The first 6 bikes are all in the 43s.
Yakov in fourth place, just 0.2 of a second behind last time they get by the stripe. So they're only a couple corners away and half the straightaway until they get to that start-finish line. And we'll get to see those lap times again. But Skultz with a commanding lead at this point of the race. As he comes across the line, it's going to be 42.789 for Matthew Skultz. So what a lap for him, and that's a new race lap record here at Ridge Motorsports Park.
Well, let's keep in mind, by the way, that we saw in our pre-show that the Strack bike had been down the road. Matthew crashed that bike. So there was no sessions after that session that he fell over in. So he was basically just those first 3 or 4 laps feeling things out. Obviously, the Strack guys have done a good job putting the bike underneath him, and he goes out and rips off a 42.7. I believe yesterday's qualifying, Greg, was a 42.2. I believe is what he did. So for Matthew now, he's just going to get locked in, try to do these 42s as consistent as he can. But man, the number 70 of Ty Scott is going nowhere. You see Matthew, his right foot fell off the foot peg in that transition. A lot of places here at this track where you're making a transition from left to right. You're very active with your feet on the balls of the foot pegs, and you saw Matthews come off there, and they are starting to actually drop PJ Jacobsen a little bit on this lap. You can see that gap, Greg, starting to get there between second and third place.
Ty Scott is on a ripper right now, and Jay, he did a 42.910, which was also a lap under the lap record, just not quite as quick last time by, but you can obviously see that Ty Scott has closed that gap on that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki.
Yeah, he's done a really nice job. I mean, he can see that Matthew is dropping the pace here a little bit, so Ty Scott's going to be there. What Ty Scott wants to be able to do is make it to where when Matt comes by the wall, Matthew's going to see on his lap timer from the lap before that he had done a 42.7. Tyler wants him to come by the board this time and see +0 on the board still. So he wants to continue to keep applying that pressure.
By the stripe they go, 1:42.584. Lowering the lap record again is Ty Scott on the number 70.
And when we come back that next lap, when we come through, I want you to pay attention to the difference in lines between the two. The bump down there in the chicane is kind of what threw Matthew off the inside of the bike. For whatever reason, he doesn't feel comfortable going over the paint in turn one. And you can see Ty Scott and I believe PJ, who's also 42.6 that time from PJ. So PJ firing back. You must have heard me say they're starting to gap him a little bit, Greg. Got motivated because he's right on the back of the front two again. But you'll see a difference of lines between them as they go down and through that chicane. I feel, on what I've heard from talking to some of the riders down there in the paddock, going over the paint's a little bit smoother. There's a little bit of a bump just to the right side of the paint as they go through that chicane. And you'll see a difference in lines when we come back to that point here in probably about 45 seconds or so.
And this racetrack, Ridge Motorsports Park, is a good place to go over the paint. It is equipped with FIM homologated paint, which also means that there is some aggregate mixed into the paint, so you can actually get good grip on the paint. And it's also, if it ever has the R word, right?
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
It's got some grip here, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, all of our shots right now and our splits are all white, so nobody's on a faster time than they've already gone. So it's generally what you'll see the first couple of laps, first 4 or 5 laps, you'll see the fastest laps of the race at that point. And again, they just they space away from PJ through the first couple sectors. PJ has a way of kind of wrangling it back, but they're going to come down into that chicane right now, and you're going to see Matthew goes just around the paint. And you'll see Ty Scott on the 70. He'll get his bike slowed down, turned a little bit sooner, and get it over the paint. So Matthew goes around it, Ty goes over it.
Yeah, what's interesting is they go 43.4, 43.5. It seems like you're talking about right now, lap 5 completed. They're in the settle down mode because obviously Ty Scott knew that he's got the pace to reel him in. But the question too, Jay, is that with these broken clouds, what are the Dunlop tires going to do? Because like Jamie was talking about, the temperature variance when the sun comes out versus when the clouds poke by. So my guess is because nobody's really had an opportunity to put these full 15 laps in, they're going to be a little conservative, as now 22 of Blake Davis has got Kayla Yakov in his sight. That's the battle for 4th.
And keep in mind that Blake Davis on our screen just ran 43.4. So he ran the exact same pace as the leader of the race. But Blake has just kind of had to maybe, I don't know if he got a bad start, but he kind of got shuffled back as you see him trying really hard right now to go around the outside of Kayla. Again, this is a tough pass, especially coming up over this part of the track. Let's see if he tries to get down the inside. Not quite close enough, taking that long way around. Kayla will have felt that. That's why she closed the door going there into turn 11. Jamie.
Well, talking to Blake Davis, he was a little disappointed after qualifying, but he did say, I typically race better than I qualify. That's one of the things he really wants to work on over the course of this season. But in terms of confidence, he said he was coming into the race today without that same confidence that he's had in the opening rounds of this championship. And he doesn't really understand why. He doesn't know if it's the racetrack, if he feels uncomfortable, or is he, you see, making the move there and getting around Kayla. This is going to help that confidence just a little bit, because now that he is in this race trim, he's able to make up some of the positions that he was lacking in qualifying.
Yeah, so a nice move for the 22. But Jay, while Jamie was talking to us, you and I both noticed that Kayla Yakov in the front end of her motorcycle looks like there's quite a bit of chatter that we didn't see in practice and qualifying. And so she might not feel 100% comfortable in the front end of her Ducati at the moment. You can see that front fender moving around. Listen, it might look bigger to us than she feels, but looking at her lap times, her best is 43.5, and she's now in the 44.8, so that's a 1.3 second difference, something we normally don't see from the number 19. To put that in contrast, Blake Davis goes 43.4 as his fastest, and to get around Kayla goes 44.2, so he's about 0.8 of a second away from his, and now he's got clear racetrack in front of him. And for Yakov on the 19, she has a fellow Ducati rider behind her, and Cameron Peterson, who's on the move, the 45.
Yeah, and Cam's going to try to do something here probably similar to what Blake did. Now all through here the last lap, Kayla had Blake to the left of her. Cam's going to just try to get a run up here, and if Kayla opens the door at all into this next left, Cam might take a shot, but she's really solid into here, and she's tremendous breaker down into turn 13 also. So for Cam, he's going to have to be really close as they get out of this right-hander if he wants to take a shot down into turn 13, as you see him close up onto the back of that Ray Hall Ducati. Is he a little bit too far back right now, Greg? No, he's going to have a shot at it.
Oh, yeah. My goodness.
Long way back.
Whoa.
Yeah, he didn't get it stopped. So Kayla's going to be able to go back by him And that was a long way back from Cam, but he wants to take a shot because he wants to go run away with Blake because he's still trying to get down the inside. Wasn't close enough there either. So Cam doesn't want to see the 22 get away.
So Cameron Peterson on the Celtic Economy Lube Plus Tire Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati goes up the inside, and he'll take over that position. A nice move and very aggressive from the South African.
And that's what he had to do. And to your point, Greg, earlier, what we're seeing with Kayla right now, we know the pace that she has, but it seems like something is just kind of fallen off as far as the pace goes, or a feel that she might have. And that's why now, as you see, this was the first shot that Cam took, and Kayla was able to turn her bike back up underneath. But then when they went down into turn one, look how far back he's coming from. And you're going to see he's another one. He's going to run right over this inside paint. And you'll watch his bike go right over it. Doesn't really look like it upset the motorcycle very much at all. And he was able to flick it back to the right and accelerate out of there.
So that's the battle for fourth place between Davis and Cameron Peterson. And now we go back up front as Matthew Skoltz had a 0.6 of a second lead, and it looks like he's starting to really draw away from him as he goes his personal best in Sector 1 at a 33.7. And this is the one thing we know about Skoltz, Jason, is that Skoltz likes to test the field during the race. He's going to really try to break away, and if he's not able to get away, he'll settle down, but then they'll throw another shot a couple laps later. And it seems like we're at that point of the race where Skoltz is going to try to break the rest of the field.
He seems able to sustain a pace a little easier, doesn't he? And I think that consistency is what he's going to need. And right now, when you start to look at things, Greg, I mean, having somebody between him and PJ for the championship, you know, that's a big thing for him. So for Ty Scott showing this form right now on the Suzuki is a great thing also for Matthew. PJ's, you know, obviously PJ knows what he's got going and knows what he has underneath him. He also realizes that we still have another 6 laps to go. But as they start to just creep away, what is it, 7/10 now? 42.7, fastest lap of Matthew's race there on his way through. And Tyler continues to charge after him, Jamie.
And for Tyler Scott, you know, we've covered the fact that Matthew Skoltz had his issue in qualifying this morning, but Tyler hasn't had the cleanest start to the weekend either. He had contact during the first practice session yesterday, and just a little effect that bled over into the qualifying session yesterday afternoon was they ended up blowing the motor. They think a sensor had gone bad, and so the engine was running way too lean, and that's ultimately what caused it. The team had to do a lot of work, went into the qualifying session today, and he was really just not happy with the motorcycle. Following that, the team went to work. They looked at all the squiggly lines on the computer going through all of the data, and you see on the screen that Ty Scott, they have certainly found a setup that he's comfortable with. It's all going to come down to consistency at the end of the race because, again, that 15 lap count, that's the unknown right now.
Yeah, and Matthew Skoltz right now is pushing the issue. Just goes Sector 1 fastest time, but PJ Jacobsen wants to close the gap on Ty Scott, and he goes fastest Sector 1 of the race at a 33.5. The question is, what's Sector 2 like? What's Sector 3 like? As we ratchet back now, as we continue to look at this battle for fourth place, Track Racing number 22, that is Blake Davis, and then Cam Peterson on the Celtic Economy Lube Plus Tire Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati, as these two start to get after it. But the problem with this is their battle is 7 seconds adrift of third place.
Yeah, and when you think about it right now, this is what that start is so important, and qualifying here at the Ridge is so key. You get in there with the first 3 guys, it looks like Cam Peterson is going to take a shot at Blake Davis. He does. Runs right over that paint again. Looks solid. Cam looks really good on this bike right now. This is going to be good for his confidence. We'll be able to see now if he can continue to sustain the pace that he is at. That last time through, 43.6 for Cam Peterson, 43.8 for Blake Davis.
As we look at this replay, one thing I want to bring to your attention, last year when Cameron Peterson was on the factory Yamaha, one of the strongest places he was on the racetrack is under braking into turn number 1. And if you remember, he was racing with Josh Herron here last year in our Superbike category and was able to stay with Josh for quite a while on the backs of being able to brake so deep into turn number 1. So definitely a favorite place for Cameron Peterson.
And you know, for Cam, he does double duty at some of the races, and I think this would be just a great weekend for him to just get a good, solid weekend underneath his belt on that HSBK Ducati. And I think that if he can just kind of sustain where he's at right now, put a good, solid top 4 finish in, go back to the team, see what they can do to make some improvements on the bike tomorrow. I know Cam's got the pace to run with the 3 at the front. He's just got to try to get some continuity there. As you look back at the other 2 teammates that are battling right now, it's going to be Josh Hayes and Teague Hobbs. Both these guys are rolling around in the 44.2 range. They did the exact same lap times pretty much the last time through. For Josh, he's still searching. He was testing last week at Thunder Hill, and he's still searching for a feel. And he said there's a bit of a numbness for him on this bike. Everything he tries, it doesn't matter what he does, he turns the bike upside down and he still gets the same exact feeling. And as a rider, that's a really frustrating prospect. So he is going to just continue to grind this out. And for Teague Hobbs, right now, this is a great opportunity to follow a guy with a wealth of knowledge, a great history, all-time leader in our championships as far as race wins and things. So those 2 guys are going to be battling as they come into that first chicane.
So Hayes and Hobbs, the battle for 8th and 9th. But while that was going on, Jay, out front, Tyler Scott goes fastest lap of the race at a 1:42.571, trying to keep Matthew Skultz at bay, and he was able to get back 0.2 of a second. So Skultz, Scott, and PJ Jacobsen, as PJ now has slipped back. As we continue to look at Hayes and Hobbs, that battle for the lead is 18 seconds up the road. And we can tell from our timing and scoring screens that PJ Jacobsen, who's losing time, but he just went fastest sector 1, trying to keep him at bay. So Matthew Skultz trying to break him. Ty Scott has the answer.
I wonder, when you think about it, Greg, if there was a mistake made on the lap prior that we just didn't see because that gap has gotten bigger. PJ's now gone fastest first split of the race outright and his own personal best split in the second. So PJ's digging deep there, trying to find something. And to go back to what we were talking about earlier with Ty Scott and listening to what Jamie was saying, we saw some pretty amazing things from this young man his first year on this bike with this team. Had a really rough sophomore year last year. A lot of little accidents and things that we weren't accustomed to seeing and so on. And now again, you stick with these young guys and you continue to give them what you can. And you can see Ty Scott doing a really good job here of reacting to what Matthew did. 42.308 for Ty Scott that lap. Fastest lap of the race. They've pulled 1.6 seconds up the road from PJ, who also goes into the 42. So the first 3 riders are in the 42s, but the 2 at the front just have a couple tenths over PJ at the moment.
So nearly 0.8 of a second quicker, breaking the race lap record from last year in Supersport by Matthew Skultz at a 42.3 for Ty Scott this late in the race. How good are these Dunlop tires? Jay, just remind you, Skultz broke the outright lap record at a 42.221, so he's less than 1/10 of a second is Ty Scott away from pole time. And keep in mind, when they're on pole, that's a fresh tire, that's low fuel load, to everything to maximize the fastest lap you can do. Ty Scott on his Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki is on a charge right now, and he wants to win this race.
Well, I just saw something that would be, that I caught, where Matthew's bike is spinning very, very late. So he's got the bike pretty much upright. When he came out of turn 6 and he dipped into turn 7, I actually saw the bike spin on the right side. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and also keep an eye on how much grip it looks like Ty has, because to your point, to be within 1/10. But look at Matthew. He's like dropping the hammer here as we've got, we're just lighting up, aren't we, Greg? Red and orange splits here. And Ty gets in there a little bit deep, but look what Matthew's doing. He's starting to stretch it out, Greg. This is going to be Matthew's fastest lap of the race if he continues to keep it on the island as he gets out of this last right-hand corner. This is going to be a very low 42 for Matthew as he's got his head put down and he's opened up that gap ever so slightly, 42.4 to a 42.7. And you can see Matthew's body position and everything change the last half of that lap. What Matt is digging for right now. Oh, what do we have? Ty Scott is down.
Oh, Ty Scott hits the deck on the turn 1 chicane. And after all of that work, he's able to refire the motorcycle. We'll see where he ends up. So it looks like, was that Jake Lewis, maybe?
It's gonna be Blake Davis, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Blake Davis.
Oh, that may be Torrin Collins. So maybe back to 11th place. Let's see what happens with the number 70.
Yeah, it's the exact same accident that Matthew Skultz had this morning, almost a T. So you can see he's gonna get on this. He's gonna hit a bump. See the chatter, and he loses the front and falls off the inside of the bike, and sadly for Ty Scott. I think he picked the bike back up, though, Greg. I believe he's still in 6th place. I thought I saw him get back on and just ahead of Jake Lewis.
Yeah, so it looks like 7th
maybe
place.
Jake up by him now, but yeah.
So for Matthew Skoltz, a 42.445, his fastest lap of the race. 12 laps into this 15-lap race, putting the pressure on Ty Scott. And behind him, Ty Scott hits the deck. That's going to move his champion. And trust me when I tell you, Skoltz didn't want that from Ty Scott.
No.
He wanted to be able to keep his rival between himself and P.J. Jacobsen. But now P.J. moves up to 2nd.
What I was saying, though, prior to him falling over is all that Matthew is digging for right now is to see a +1 on his board. Now he's going to see probably almost a +3 on his board. Now this is going to be the battle for 3rd between Blake Davis, Cam Peterson, and look who's back. Kayla Yakov has reeled these two back in, Greg. So Kayla has figured out, this is what great riders do. She might have that small chatter. She's figured out that it's not that bad. It's not going to interrupt her and her pace. She's going to have about 2 laps to go here, trying to figure out a way past these two. Now remember, we saw Cam in front of Blake Davis earlier. He had got by, so Blake has fought back, and now Kayla is right in the mix for a podium that she had got here last year as well. She's back in the hunt for another one.
And how about Yakov? Yakov goes 1:43.6. That's only a 1/10 of a second off the best lap that she did way earlier in the race. So she has figured something out, and now with the possibility of a podium straight up ahead, I think what she needs at this point, though, is Davis and Peterson to start mucking about and open the door, and she can slide right in there and stand on the podium as Skoltz and PJ are 14 seconds out front.
Maybe the best track, when you're in Cam Peterson's position at the moment, when he goes by Blake, there might not be a better track to immediately attack for Kayla. You've got to, if Cam figures out a way to get by Blake, she's got to attack Blake immediately herself, because there's not a lot of space here where you can let things space themselves out. So she needs to just get a little bit closer, because if and when Cam does try to get past and through on Blake, she wants to be able to follow through as well. So
yeah, the problem Kayla has right now, Jay, is that Blake Davis just went his personal Sector 1 fastest split of the race. So he's trying to make a break from Cameron Peterson. Cameron Peterson only lost a 1/10 of a second and is right on his tailpipe. But here is your race leader, your #1 of Matthew Skoltz. He comes across the stripe, taking the white flag. 1 to go for the South African.
Kind of expect to see Cam Peterson, maybe if he can get a good drive out of here, which he did. I expect to see him try to slide through underneath Blake Davis down here into turn 1. He got a tremendous drive, and he's going to try to go down the inside, which he's going to do. Now he's got to just control this little bit of apex speed right here, so that Blake can't turn it back underneath him. And Cam did a really tremendous job of getting into turn 1 and getting through there, didn't he? To your point earlier of what you talked about in the Superbike races here last year.
He just has that confidence, and he has that in his back pocket. He knows that turn 1 is working for him, and he's able to pull it off. But for Blake Davis, he's got other places he can attack. All the while, there's Kayla Yakov. She's trying to hold on and trying to close that gap. Unless there's a mistake made by these two, it's going to have to be really tricky. It's a good section for Yakov here to close down some distance. Again, this is the battle for 3rd, the final spot on the podium on our final lap. Motivation Supersport, race #1 here at Ridge Motorsports Park in Shelton, Washington.
Cam gets it down into that little area tight. This is where Blake's been good. Almost gets into the back. He was really good there. I remember when he went by Jake Lewis early in the race. Now Cam's going to come through this fast right, and he's going to keep that Ducati to the inside of the track here. You do not want to open the door. See how tight he is there? Control that apex speed at the bottom of this one. Protect a little bit into the next right. And don't be surprised to see Cam go all the way down the left-hand side of the track out of this right-hander. He's going to let the power push him out there and just park it there. See how he stayed on the left-hand side of the track to try to thwart any efforts that Blake might have. And at this point, Cam's just got to keep it nice and tidy.
Here comes the #1 plate. Wheel in the air coming across the line. And Strack Racing Yamaha's Matthew Skoltz with the win. P.J. Jacobsen comes across the line. This is the battle for 3rd. So Cameron Peterson, after a good pass in turn 1, is able to hold off Blake Davis all the way to the checkered flag and take 3rd position. Well, for a guy who couldn't ride on yesterday, what a reward it is for his Celtic Economy Lube Plus Tire Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati team to put it on the podium. But 5 points in the championship back for the #1 of Matthew Skoltz. A good run for him, putting the pressure on Ty Scott. and he 100% controlled everything from the front. A masterful performance from Matthew Skoltz.
Yeah, really what he needed to do. This is a really good track for Matthew, and very aggressive riders. You can see those lap times, lap 8 through 13 there, just living in the 42s, and 42.4 being quickest. And you know, obviously for PJ, big day for him to only lose 5 points. Could have been a lot worse. For Ty Scott, he'll come back and fight another day. He did end up getting back past Jake Lewis to end up 6th.
When we get back to Ridge Motorsports Park, we're going to hear from our podium, especially Matthew Skoltz. He knew the pressure was there.
Matthew Skoltz able to claim the race victory here at the Ridge in the Supersport class and claw back another 5 points on PJ Jacobsen. That got now down to 15 points. And Roger, we've been able to see Matt bounce back from his crash this morning and come away with another podium. He's only missed out on the podium in 1 race this season, but that race victory, 25 points, very important for him.
Just such a smart race by Matt, just kind of setting in his pace, kind of getting the confidence back from that crash this morning, and just put the pressure on the rest of the guys. And Tyler Scott was really riding good. He's been impressive today from the struggle yesterday, and unfortunately had that mistake. But this is what we've seen all weekend so far out of Matt. Just his consistency to the other guys has just been a little bit better.
Yeah, and we saw as well for Ty Scott, like you were saying, a really impressive ride from Ty. Has that crash, still comes away with a top 6 finish, but the promise of a lot more, and it's going to be interesting to see what he can do tomorrow, because the step from Friday to Saturday has been very impressive, but in this race we were able to see a rider that really wanted it and tried to hunt down Skoltz.
And now he has the opportunity to you know, really get up to speed now, so they can make some really good changes overnight. Yesterday he was a little bit off the pace, so those changes aren't really relevant. Now he goes, he sees Matt, he sees where he's struggling at, he sees where he can be better, and where they can improve tomorrow.
PJ Jacobsen and Cam Peterson, the other podium finishers, and Peterson on that last lap up against Blake Davis. Good defending rider.
Good, just use that experience you had, make the pass, and then, you know, not leave any of those corners open, and that's great for Cain Peterson. It's a tough week with him with the injury, and able to come here and fight it out. This is not a track you want to come to injured. It is physical, it is tough.
Yeah, very tough track as Matthew Skoltz back in Parc Ferme now, celebrating that 3rd race victory of the season with PJ Jacobsen and Cam Peterson down there as well. Impressive rides from all 3, and Peterson able to take that last step of the podium. And we'll go back to Greg White and Jason Pridmore to take us through the Parc Ferme celebrations and the podium here at the Ridge.
Welcome back to Ridge Motorsports Park. Great fan attendance here in the Pacific Northwest, Shelton, Washington, as riders make their way victory lane. And Matthew Skoltz with another one. Career victory number 12 in Supersport. By the way, that's only in 2 seasons so far. So a good overhead shot of this. Let's take a look at those results to see how it ended up. Because the good news for Ty Scott is he's able to pick it up and finish 6th. So it's Skoltz from PJ, Cameron Peterson, Blake Davis right there with Jakob. Then Ty Scott got back ahead of Jake Lewis, Hobbs, Hayes, and Corey Alexander rounding out your top 10. Sure, Hobbs is going to be having a nice little chit-chat about beating his teammate Hayes on that one, JP.
Absolutely. He went 43.8 his last lap. So it was the fastest lap of the race for Teagues from his personal point of view there. So little bragging rights.
Yeah, some good stories across the well, but the biggest deal is that people finish the race in this top 10. They're going to get great data for tomorrow. Let's get down to victory lane with Jamie.
Congratulations between Matthew Skoltz and Cam Peterson right now celebrating this podium result. And Matthew Skoltz, you know, we talked to him out on the grid. That team did a tremendous amount of work to get that bike out there for the race. Answered a lot of those questions. Matthew, you were able to control the pace of this one. What did you learn that's now going to help you advance even further for tomorrow?
That I just can't ride tight. The first couple of laps, I was just hanging on for dear life. I was pushing the front everywhere, just squeezing the bars too much, using my arms, and I just started, relaxing a little bit, getting a little bit smoother, hitting my marks, and the last 5 or 6 laps definitely felt better for me. I kind of guessed that Tyler crash after I saw the lap board go up. But overall, thank you to the Strack Racing team. They had to repair this bike. We've got a whole bunch of new parts onto this thing. We're going to go back, look at the setup, because I wasn't feeling confident on the side of the tire, but overall really happy to bring this thing home in first place. Since the last race, we made some pretty major setup changes, and it's really paid off. So I'm looking forward to the second race. And one more time, thank you to the track racing guys. They've been working so hard.
Rewarded him with the 3rd win of the season. Congratulations.
Yeah, great job by Skoltz, and he actually told us a ton there. Really,
Yeah.
You know, again, keep in mind this Yamaha R9 is a brand new motorcycle this year, and so every time they go to these racetracks, it's something new. Let's get down to Jamie, who has our 2nd place finisher.
PJ Jacobsen maintains the points lead in terms of the championship, finishing 2nd here today. You didn't have the confidence in the front end through the qualifying sessions. How was it in the race settings?
It was a bit of a struggle in the race. So, yeah, Schultz did a great job, and Tyler was riding great. So they were kind of like, in a different league in this race and stuff. So, yeah, we just got to work on some things. And, yeah, it's getting more points, 2nd. So it's good. But, yeah, we got to work on some things for tomorrow to be a lot more competitive than today.
Continuing a string of podium results. PJ Jacobsen.
Yeah, I did. They're definitely going to look at that 4.2 seconds. But also, I think one of the things, too, is going to look at your fastest lap of the race versus what you were able to do towards the end of the race. And there's got to be some adjustments made. Let's get back down to Jamie, who has our 3rd place finisher.
Cameron Peterson came into the weekend with a left shoulder injury, and you said it back in the paddock earlier. It's just 15 laps. I can fight through it for 15 laps, and you fought your way onto the podium. How are you feeling now afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy to end up here. Got off to a rough start, I kind of fell backwards there, and I took it really easy those first few laps. And as the race went on, I started to feel more and more comfortable on the bike. And then, yeah, I got to a point where I kind of started to struggle with my shoulder. So sat behind Blake and waited for the last lap, made my move, and brought it home in P3. So stoked. I mean, especially after the weekend that we've had, it just started off so rough. And this one's for the boys. These guys work harder than anybody in this paddock. So, yeah, just to get this Ducati up on the box is the main goal, and can't thank the whole Saltec Economy Lube entire team enough. Yeah, those guys are awesome.
You timed it perfectly. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was a great move, and obviously we knew what was coming. Turn number 1 is a strong part of the racetrack for Cam Peterson, and perfectly timed and able to grit his teeth for that last lap and get it done.
Just need to get a healthy Cam. That's the biggest thing. It seems like he comes into a lot of these events with nagging injuries, and like we said, he hurt his shoulder prior to this, and he just needs to continue to get healthy, and hopefully we can see more of this, and maybe even closer up to the front.
So now these riders are going to do the hat dance, and then they're going to get to spray some champagne. Our coverage will continue from Ridge Motorsports Park after this. Hang tight.
Great race in the Supersport class, Rog, and very honest answers down there, especially from PJ Jacobsen.
Yeah, really honest answer, and it's kind of right, just missing a little bit. It's got a couple tenths he needs to find. It's kind of been like that all weekend, but we know PJ and that team, they're going to dig into that data tonight, and they're going to try to figure out where he's losing that little bit. Now, he has a good opportunity, though, when he was out there in the race to see where he's struggling compared to Matt and see if he can make some changes.
Obviously enough for PJ just walking onto the podium now, and for him it keeps that run of podiums going, but obviously whenever you've got that run you still want to be able to win races. He's been able to win 3 already this season, but for Matthew to be able to take that race victory, that's going to be an important one for him as well, just psychologically for the championship.
I think too for PJ, getting beat second place is good points, but he wants to be in that battle. He wants to be in that fight. When he comes up a little bit short, but Matt, once he said he rode a little bit tight early on in the race, and I think that's just coming from the crash, but once he got in his rhythm, he's just showed so much pace all weekend and just consistently able to do those minute 42 lap times.
And obviously as well for Matthew, after what we saw this morning, an emotional rider, but he was able to park that from this morning and give himself that chance to be able to come away with a win.
And I think that just comes with experience and a good team. Matt's got good people around him, so he's able to bounce back and put that behind him, what happened this morning, and he was able to reward his crew for all that hard work with the win.
Obviously those 25 points for the race win, and in less than 24 hours they'll be back out on track for race 2 for the Supersport class, and Matthew Skoltz continuing just to claw back those points on PJ Jacobsen. The gap now at the top of the standings down to 15 points, and we'll see if Jacobsen's able to make a step tomorrow to be able to maintain that championship lead and bring the challenge to Matthew Skoltz.
Motovation Supersport is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. By NXT Bets. Play MotoAmerica for cash, multiple race classes live on top sportsbook and DFS platforms all season long. And by Motovation, the most trusted online resource for premium motorcycle parts and accessories delivered right to your door.
Motivation Super Sport race number 1 is done here at Ridge Motorsports Park in Shelton, Washington. And Jamie Howe is with our 6th place finisher.
Yeah, that's Tyler Scott, who we saw with that tremendous amount of pace early on, still credited with having the quickest lap, but you had that moment there during the race. You were able to pick it up, get back out there. What does this give you now to go into tomorrow?
Definitely gives us the whole Vision Wheel and 4XR Suzuki team a lot of confidence, especially coming into this round. This is for sure one of our most difficult rounds, reoccurring every year. We struggle here, and it feels good to be able to battle up the front with someone like Matthew Schultz for 13 laps, I think it was, till I went through the chicane a little too hard and tucked the front, and just I kind of hit myself as I'm sliding, you know, and I was able to get the bike back up and finish the race, and a little bent up, but felt good and walked away with minor injuries, just a little bit on my arm, and we'll come back better and stronger tomorrow with a better plan.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, and that lap, of course, was a 1:42.308 from Ty Scott, done on lap number 11, which broke the old race lap record by nearly 0.8 of a second. Really impressive, and for him to pick it up and finish 6th, so important. Our coverage continues from Ridge Motorsports Park when we get back.
Race 1 of the Supersport weekend sees Matthew Schultz take that race victory, and Rog, we were just able to hear there from Tyler Scott. Obviously picks up a little bit of an injury after that crash, but still able to come away with a top 6 finish. He's been top 6 in every race so far this season.
Yeah, and for him to pick up the bike, I mean, it's kind of crazy. You see a rider like him crash, and while he's sliding, he's already thinking about jumping back up to get back in the race, and that's why it's so important. And he's able to collect 6th place points, and that could be huge as his title and the championship winds down toward the end of the year. But I think it's a really good ride for Tyler. He was able to match the pace. He got the fastest lap of the race. So I think for him, struggled a little bit yesterday, but I think today had to be a huge momentum change.
We saw it with him as well. Obviously, he loses the front, and you're trying to dig in with everything you can to stand that bike up, but you know that you're after that point of being able to return. And for Tyler, he was at least able to have that presence of mind to be able to still come away with some points. And obviously for all these riders, we're still early in the season, we're still in the first half of the season, but this is the moment in the year whenever those points really become very important for what you're going to fight for the rest of the year, whether it's trying to win the championship or come away with those top 3 standings.
It's right here in the middle of the season where you start having races more often, and this is going to be whatever rhythm you're in right now. You talk about riders wanting to go on a run. This is where they start when you got races like this where they're back to back, and then another one in just a couple weeks. So this is a big part of the championship, because with the last 3 races, you just want your name in the hat.
Yeah, rhythm and momentum, the key thing in the super sport class, whether it's on track or with those championship points. And certainly from what we've been able to see, we've got our 2 clear championship contenders, and tomorrow's race is going to be really interesting to see how they're able to fight with one another. PJ Jacobsen has to try and answer back now to Matthew as well, who's led the way for much of the weekend, and he'll be able to see whether or not he can maintain that form tomorrow. We'll go back to Greg and JP.
Everybody trying to get a good start. Maybe it's got to be the 65 of Page who leads us in. No, up the inside, it's got to be Sam Drain. Oh, man, both riders. This young man comes to the stripe and will take the win. Oh, yeah, that's Generation Speed. Episode 2 coming July 10th on the YouTube. Jason, that's the YouTube. And Motorsports 1 Network. You definitely want to check that out. What a great show MotoAmerica has put together for us. And the fans love it here. Let's take a look at race 1 highlights. JP, take it away.
Yeah, you can see very tricky turn 1. PJ didn't get the start he wanted, so he'll be thinking about that as he gets ready to line up tomorrow. He was able to get to 3rd pretty quickly, though. You see him here on the back of Ty Scott and Matthew Schultz, who got the best starts out of that front row. Matthew Schultz and Ty Scott would kind of be in this formation for, like you heard Ty say, for those 13 laps. they pulled away from the rest of the field, Greg, and Ty Scott really looked like he had some pace going today. As you look a little bit further back, Kayla Yakov and Blake Davis got locked into a battle for fourth. Kayla fell back a little bit as you see her get passed here by Cam Peterson as well. Looked like she was going to fall in the clutches of Jake Lewis, but she would end up getting on the back of both Cam Peterson and Blake Davis. As you see, Cam takes a shot at Blake Davis going down into that chicane. And again, you'll see Jake Lewis just off there in the background. This was the moment of the race. Ty Scott falls over. You saw that abrasion on his left elbow, Greg. Just a small cut. Probably go get that little looked at. Last lap, Cam Peterson goes under Blake Davis, but this guy had already built up a nice lead. Second in the points still, but 5 points closer to that guy right there, PJ Jacobsen.
Yeah, so PJ Jacobsen. There's Cameron Peterson, and you can see that shoulder really bothering him after the race. He had to dig deep for that one. I think that's pretty obvious to see, Jay.
Yeah, it's a bummer, and you know what you do, Greg, is you let the adrenaline just kind of take everything over, and once you get through that checkered flag, you know, that's when you have time to worry about that. Let's get a look at the championship point standings here. PJ Jacobsen now with just a 15-point lead over Blake Davis. Ty Scott, Cam P rounding out your top five. Kayla there in 7th place. So you can see we're all pretty close from 3rd through about, well, to Josh there. 30 points difference between 3rd to 8th.
Yeah, some good points by Kayla Yakov, too, with a good finish today, as well as Cam Peterson getting those 3rd place points. So, wow, this championship starting to tighten up after it extended to 20. So what's going to happen tomorrow is the big question at Ridge Motorsports Park. For a guy who won the race, Matthew Skultz, he wasn't 100% happy with the setup of his motorcycle, but he's got 15 outstanding laps for he and his team to go back and take a look at that data. But the rest of this field is going to be getting after it. So you make sure you join us for Motivation Supersport. Race number 2 here from Ridge Motorsports Park. That'll happen 5 o'clock Eastern time. Well, from Shelton, Washington, I'm Greg. For Jason and Jamie, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here for MotoAmerica's Motivation Supersport Race Action.
Hold him up high.